All right, I'm here in my messy garage and I thought I'd do a video on the Inflite versus the Grail and using a CX bike as a gravel bike. This is my Inflite. I love it. It's one of my favorite bikes. I have it set up for gravel right now. I have a 35C Gravel King on the rear and there's a considerable amount of clearance here. Let's see if we can focus down there. Kind of hard to get the camera in there, but you could probably put something slightly larger. Let's see if we can get down here. I do have helicopter tape in there in case there's any dirt stuck. And then I have dirt or rocks, I should say. And then I have a 38C on the front, a little bit bigger, and obviously plenty of clearance back here, up here. I am going to go to my computer in a minute and talk a little bit about the differences between the bikes. I've had a chance to ride them both pretty extensively. And the short of it is I would absolutely recommend this as a gravel bike, even if that's all you're doing. Now let's go over to the computer here. Excuse the mess. Okay, so these are all of the rides I've done with my Inflite. Gravel rides. I mean, I've done a ton. You can see there's some that are, quite long. I think I just have this filtered to the word gravel, but if I really searched through here, I could find some that were about 80 plus, I think is the extent to which I've taken that bike. And then the Grail, I've rented this numerous times in California. And I've gone on pavement. This is up Hawk Hill on the Grail. I've done a couple gravel rides on the Grail. This is through Oakland Hills. I'm sorry, this is actually mostly a pavement one, but this was in Oakland Hills, so a lot of pavement. And this was a gravel ride through Berkeley Hills, through single track, a lot of gravel. And ultimately, the Grail, in my opinion, it's a nice bike, but compared to the Inflite, it's lumbering, it's heavy, it feels a bit like a tank. It's got a longer wheelbase, bigger tires. The handlebars add some heft to the overall feel of the bike. The handlebars, by the way, work well. They're designed well. It's perhaps function over form. They really took a stance on something that works well. So I wouldn't really put it out of the count if you're considering it based on the handlebars. And then I just got to thinking, back in the early days of bike riding, what were they on? And here, Maurice here in 1903 was riding a steel La France bike, which weighed 18K. I had to look this up because I'm an idiot, but that's about 40 pounds. Kg to pounds, it's 40 pounds. That's pretty wild. And look at some of these early pictures, right? They're roughing it. They're on, they're probably doing cobbles and gravel and all this stuff. And throughout the history of bike riding and racing, people used road bikes for gravel and they do it today. And only as technology evolved did they sort of come out with this, new geometry and technology for gravel. So really, how comfortable, I think when it comes down to it, it's a comfort factor. Do you need to be on your bike? The Inflite is amazingly comfortable. Yeah, by the way, I was looking up, this was the 1903 Tour de France, I think over 6 stages. It says here it was 1,500 miles. So, if they could do it back then, you could rough it today on really anything. And so I put together a little flow chart here that helps explain what I'm thinking. Okay, so first and foremost, do what excites you. If you know what excites you, it's the Grail, it's a road bike, it's a mountain bike, just do it. Get that bike. If you don't, there's a few different ways to look at this, but here's how I consider it. If you're doing primarily pavement and road, and that's it, you know you're not going to be doing much more, then yeah, get a road bike. If you're doing road and gravel or just gravel, this is my consideration. Maybe your threshold isn't 100 miles, maybe it's 75 or 50 or 40. If you plan on doing consistent endurance rides, then yes, the Grail performance may outshine that of the Inflite. But if you're going to be doing fewer miles, you know, stuff that isn't ultra endurance, the Inflite's going to be perfectly fine. In fact, it's going to be much more capable than a gravel bike. So the addendum here is, if you even are considering any CX or trails, or you want something any more dynamic, then the Inflite is probably what you want. Trails, you know, mountain bike is probably your best option, although I've taken the Inflite on a lot of single track. Though if you're going to be doing exclusively trail riding and mountain bike and XC, then yeah, consider a mountain bike. A mountain bike can do it all. You can take a mountain bike in a CX race. Mountain bikes are great on gravel and gravel races. And yeah, sure, bring a mountain bike on a road ride or a road race and see what happens. It's probably interesting and fun. And the last thing I'll say here is that I've been beaten by all manner of bike in many races. I was beaten by fat bike in a gravel race. I've been beaten by gravel bikes in road races. So speed is really no factor. Your engine, your legs is really where you're gonna make the biggest difference in speed. Back to the Inflite. You know, obviously the look is one thing. It could be polarizing. Some people don't like this kink. It works well for shouldering the bike in a CX race. I like how it looks. The yellow is one thing. You know, there's a lot of different things you can say about how it looks. But in terms of geometry, the Grail, you know, it's going to have a longer wheelbase. This Inflite, you know, it's going to have a steeper head angle, so it might be a little bit twitchy, or, you know, some people call it twitchy, or, you know, it's not going to be as confident, say, down tight turns or maybe loose gravel, things like that. So the Grail, if you're like hammering a hill and flying down it, and there's some switchbacks or something of that nature, you're probably going to be a little bit more comfortable or secure on the Grail. I believe this comes with a 36. I put a 44 tooth chainring on here just to have a little bit more high end on gravel and gravel races. You know, if I'm going down a hill, I don't want to spin out. There's multiple things you could do there. If you plan on racing this in CX and gravel, you can switch out the chainring. When you go to CX, you can put a smaller one on, or just leave it. I leave it and I race with the 44. Or just do the 36 in gravel and deal with it. And, you know, I really didn't have much spin out. So thumbs up for the Inflite all around. You know, you might even throw a set of road tires on this and ride it on the road. I take this often on pavement as well and mixed terrain. So thanks.